Alright everybody, got a couple more trades here. Sold one of my newer ones today, and he gave me 2 trades for a new mower plus some cash, so it was good. You know, both of these are probably going to be around $60 mowers for what they are. The first one is one of the easier ones to fix. Just did one very similar to it, except it was a big wheel with the classic style Briggs engine on it. It's built in '09, so it's not terribly old for it to be, you know, what it is. It's actually a late '09, so it's talking about 8 years old roughly. So that one looks pretty good overall. This one will clean up and make a pretty nice mower for what it is. You know, looks like the blade is alright. It also looks like the air filter's never been changed on it, so this one will need a full service. Oil, both of these engines do have compression. The oil, a little dark, but not too bad. I'll change it. It's got compression in it. I tried to pray, it does prime, but I think it's got some old gas in it, it won't fire. The guy said that he bought a house in September, and these 2 mowers were sitting there. The pull rope is good on this one, so this one should just need a full tune-up. I already had to do a little bit of work to the pull cable, put a clamp on it. That seemed to have fixed the problem because the little tab was broken off where it attaches inside the handle. Throw a little lube on that just to make it a little bit smoother. This one right here is a big wheel. This got the quantum type engine on it, probably around 6 horsepower. This one's built in '02, so you're talking almost 18 years old, roughly. Deck is in decent shape. Everything's in decent shape on it. Good bones at least. The cable, the pull cable, is frozen, so I'll have to do my zip tie fix for it. And as you can see, the pull rope here is frozen, so I don't know if it's got a bad spring. If it's been sitting outside, it's a good chance it might. So I had the mower turned, and I was trying to see if it had compression since I wasn't able to really pull the rope, and it does. It's kind of interesting that the oil and gas instructions are still on here from when the mower was bought. So who's to say that? Well, this mower looked like it was used pretty frequently, but it's kind of interesting that that's still on there. The air filter, if I look in there, I don't even think it's got one in it. So I'll continue to investigate these further. Hopefully I can make a 2-fer on this video. I'm going to start with this one right here because it looks like to be the easy fix. So let me take the air filter off, squirt some starting fluid out, and see if I can at least get it to kick over. Alright, so the first one I put down here in the test bed. I'm going to prime it, see if I can get it cranked. I'm going to throw a little starter fluid in it. So here we go. good news. First one runs. Actually tilted on its side to see how it runs. Smooth, it just barely idles back whenever you pull it back like that, but that might be partially because it's got old gas or no air filter on it. So I don't think I really even need to replace the diaphragm on it, which is great. I'll let it run for a little while. Here it runs really good, just needs a full tune up and a wash, and this will be ready to go. So, you never know what you might find whenever you pull off a engine cover shroud. And that is what I found in this. So, something was living in there, wasn't it? As you can see, this thing has been crazy, neglected terribly. Engine still has compression. I'm going to have to clean out the carburetor and everything on it though. So that's going to take me a little bit of time. Let's see if I can save this pull rep mechanism. If I can, I've got another one. That's no big deal. So let me continue working here. Hopefully I can get this thing, save this thing. Because the deck's in good shape and the engine's got compression, so we'll see. So here's the first one all done. This one wasn't too bad, just needed a full tune-up and a fix on the cable. So I put one of these clamps on there to hold the pull cable on, and it works great now. Did a new air filter, oil change, blade sharpening, and ended up putting the diaphragm in it just for good measure. So let me crank it up. Still a little wet from where I washed it, but it sounds great. I love getting these mowers in because they're usually almost always easy to fix. So that's the first one. This one should bring about $60. And we'll move on to that big wheel one. That looks like it's going to need a little bit more to work on. So on to that. So on to the big wheel one now. To show you what I've already had to do to it. First off, I just had to free up the adjusters. There's some WD-40 and then hit a rubber mallet to them to free them up. Now they're all good to go. Had to put a new one of these covers on there because the spring was broken on the other one. Had to modify it a little bit because I think this came off of a pressure washer. So I had to kind of cut it with a cut-off wheel. Let's see, I got still a little bit of stray metal there, which I'll get off. So that it would fit the grounding mechanism and all that. Put the zip tie on it for now, so that I can ground it out and switch it on, which is what I do to a lot of mowers that don't have that, or that have bad cables on them, especially of this caliber, where it's got some rust and stuff on it. So it does pull now. I did fill it up with some oil just to test it out here. But again, I'll show you this side right here. This side's really, really dirty, so this thing was run without an air filter for a long time. so I'm a little worried about the compression on it. But power bulb seems to work. I'm just going to spray some starter fluid in it real quick to see if I can get it to fire. I got crickets and all kinds of critters coming out of this thing. There's also, y'all saw the rat's nest earlier that was in it, or the mouse nest, whatever. Can't get it to fire. Don't know if it's because of bad spark with the plug, which is probably the case. Possibly a bad coil. I don't think it's grounding out right here. I might have to separate that a little bit more. Just to get it away from the grounding mechanism, but let me check the spark plug and I'll get back. So looking at the internals of the engine, I don't have any spark, and so I'm going to try and replace the coil on it to see. I'm also going to take the cutters and cut a little bit more off of the in this area right here, just so it's not touching the ground wire, just to make 100% sure that's not the case. I think I've got I should have a couple of coils for this that I'll put on. Look on the inside of the engine. The oil is dirty, but it doesn't look scored or anything like that. So I'm just going to clean off the piston and clean off the head and put it back together. And continue working, and hopefully I'll have a good mower here before long. And as you can see, that there was plenty of dirt and stuff getting inside this engine just from me just taking this off. A lot of oil buildup, so hopefully replacing the coil will get this thing back going again. So a combination of, I didn't do this on camera just because it takes so long for trial and error, but under the shroud you have the coil and you need to make sure that it's gapped correctly. And so what I've done is I've actually made it so that it's very close to the flywheel, just to kind of help ensure the most spark out of it. I did replace the coil, and I just pulled it and it gave it sparks. So let me get the spark plug back in. Let me see if I can at least get this thing to fire for us. If I can get it to fire, then hopefully we'll be in good shape, and we'll be taking the carburetor off next, see if we can get it fixed, because I'm sure with all the dirt and whatnot in there that it's got a lot of dirt in the carburetor. Just needs a thorough cleaning, and hopefully we'll have a decent mower. So spark plug is reattached. Again, I just replaced the coil and re-gapped it. Pretty easy to do. You commonly hear business card to gap the coil with. I typically just eyeball it, and sometimes I put it a little bit closer than a business card. Just to, I guess, to help ensure that I'm getting spark. And I'm getting spark now, which is better than what I was doing. So let me try this thing out. So it does crank up. I think the blade is pretty bent on it, so I'm going to have to find another blade to put on it. But I do have a few blades, especially a lot of 22-inch, so I should be good there. Let me investigate it a little bit further. Let me get the carburetor off. And like I said, pretty easy to do. Got your 3 bolts holding on your air filter cover, which are 5/16, and then you have 2 3/8 that hold the carburetor onto the intake tube. I will have to replace the fuel line. It's in pretty bad shape. And then you just take the carburetor off and just take the linkage through the eyelet there, which I had to throw a little bit of lubricant on. Take that out and we'll see what we have. Got the carburetor off, got it sitting right here soaking in a little bit of a carb cleaner. It's not great, but it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be. Jet's a little blocked, as you can see. I'll blow it out with some air. Got some nice gunk in the carb there, in the bowl, and some on the float, but overall, float and everything still works. And then I freed up the butterfly for the throttle there, and so I'm just going to clean all this up and put it back together and replace the fuel line on the tank. I'll give you all a closer look at that. As you can see, it's all cracked and dry rotted. It needs to be replaced, so I'll do that. Clean this off and put everything back together and see if it'll run. Alright, so I got it down here in the test bed. Got everything situated on it. Y'all saw how dirty the carb was. Cleaned that out. Put a new fuel line on it. Fuel line seems to be doing good. Let's see if it primes. There we go. Now it's priming. Just needed to pull some fuel up there. So I have a feeling this thing's gonna vibrate like crazy, but let's give it a test run just to see what it'll do. Well, so we're getting somewhere. It's at least cranking up and running on its own. Let me try seating the carburetor with the air, which I just take some compressed air and push it into one of those two holes right there, just to see if I can get the fuel flowing a little bit better. It seems like the gas is flowing good though. So I'll investigate it a little bit more, but we're getting closer. So sometimes I've had these quantum engines where they actually won't run without the air filter on them properly. So let me try with the air filter on, prime it about 5 or 6 times here, see if I can get it to stay running with the air filter on. It almost sounded like it wanted to try to stay running earlier. run for a little bit. Oh yeah, it needs a new blade. It's vibrating like crazy there. But that's more than it ran earlier, so that's a good thing. I might try and keep running it here to see if it'll stay running for more than a minute. And hopefully get results here in just a minute. So I got it where it would actually run for a few minutes. Not terribly long, but I didn't want to run it too bad without the with that bent blade on there. As you can see, this is typical of these mowers where they might crack about right here. This one's not cracked through yet, so it doesn't really affect anything when they do crack. It's just a weak spot on the mower. Here's the blade that's coming off of it here. Let me go this way, and then as you can see, this is the side that's bent. It's bent pretty good. So I'll give you all a full view of it. Actually put it on the wood here. Pretty bent, as you can see, particularly on this side right here. I'm going to replace it with this blade here that's been hanging around in my house, or at my house, in my shop, in the shed. I just need to sharpen it. As you can see, it's got a couple of rock chips in it, but it's very straight. So it's one of these universal 22-inch blades as well, so it should work just fine. I just got to sharpen it with the grinder, and hopefully we'll have a smooth mower. Got it back down here with the new blade on it, as you can see. So let's see how bad it vibrates now. Silk now with that blade. I just gotta let it run for a good 10-15 minutes just to make sure that it'll run by itself, you know. I'm gonna let it do that, and I'll come back and assess the situation a little bit more. It's getting pretty dark out here, but I just got finished with it. I wanted to show it to you. It's still wet and everything, but it is completed and ready to go. I did notice that when I tightened up the head bolts here, they were let's see, I'll show you the head bolts down here where the bottom here, these bottom two actually stripped out on me, and it was leaking a little bit of oil, but I found out that I did not have the other bottom one tightened, and when I tighten that, it may still drip a little bit here and there just from the valve, or just from the cylinder, but that dripping will be very minor. I'll keep an eye out on it in the daylight, and if I need to, then I will put some sealer or something on that, because it's going to be a pain to drill out those holes, but still got a lot of water on it. But let me see if I can get it cranked for us and get it running here. Pretty good. The real test is just to let it sit for a few days and then try and crank it after that. But since I have both of them ready, I wanted to go ahead and end the video tonight. With 2 running mowers for you, so I can get another post up. This quick update on what I'm doing in here. A few of them have been sold, maybe about 4 or 5 of them. Gotta start selling the used ones, but that'll come with time. We're still early in the season, so hope y'all enjoy this two-fer here. And whenever I get another trade-in, just stay tuned for it, and I'll show it to y'all. Thank y'all again for watching.